This video is an excerpt of a live stream that Victor and I did together. This was on August the 13th of 2025, one day before the 13F filings that several hedge funds and Berkshire Hathaway had bought into UNH during the second quarter of this year.
But can we talk about UnitedHealthcare, UNH? And as you set that up, I'll just kind of have a few kind of entry words. It's UnitedHealthcare is really interesting because it has had a very successful history as a stock and as a company. It was a highly trusted stock for many years. It was very well respected on Wall Street. And they have had a terrible year, which as a value investor, as a investor that I like buying great businesses, and if you offer me a great discount, I thank you for it and I buy it. United Healthcare, big picture, is looking better and better. And it's been on a very short-term rally, but I wanted to get your eyes on the technicals and show us what you're seeing.
It is still in an overall downtrend, but it looks like it's getting ready to maybe break that downtrend. I'm thinking somewhere around the 20-day moving average, which is currently sitting at 266. Stock's trading at 261. We're looking at this before the market opened, so that was a close yesterday. So I'm keeping a close eye on this one as well. I started entering after these big drops. I hadn't been a shareholder before, but it looked like an opportunity to step into a pretty well respected company that was facing some pretty significant headwinds in the current political environment. They had a CEO of one of their businesses that was killed in New York last year. Then they got some announcements about some legal issues being investigated by the legal. So anyway, they really faced a lot of headwinds here, but I'm keeping an eye on this. I'll probably start adding more shares. I wanted to see this downtrend kind of stop. It looks like it may have stopped, and I'll just keep a close eye on these shares and probably start buying here in the next day or two. You said it was up in the pre-market. Let me
yeah, it's up 1.66%.
Yep, sure enough. Yeah, so I may add some shares myself here.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you a couple of questions, if I could, around this chart. So what are we looking to? What data are we looking to get over the next couple of days, maybe the next couple of weeks, that would then tell us, hey, you know what, this thing is beginning to set up really well, and it's beginning to set up a nice upward trend?
It would need to break out. This is a very short-term downtrend. So if I connect these two tops here, drag it all the way across, you can see it's getting ready to break above a short-term downtrend. This is very short-term, and those can be short-lived. If you have a much longer trend, those become much more powerful breakouts. But this one's pretty short. So that's why I'm being cautious with my language. We are moving up. It looks like it could be a good time if you're a believer in UNH, keeping in mind that we're still going to have a political environment that's challenging to healthcare. It's not unique to UNH by any means. If I take a look at another one that I own that also got clobbered big time.
And while you do that, I I would just say that in my adult life, I'm 56, I have observed that the politicians always go after healthcare companies.
Yeah.
So it's always they're the villain in the story. But again, United Healthcare and other healthcare companies for many years rewarded investors. United Healthcare, like you cited, has had just a terrible year.
Yeah.
So please continue on.
A CNC, which is Centene, they play in that same environment. They're not nearly as large as UNH, but they were holding in there up until they pulled their guidance after the passage of the reconciliation bill, which looked like it was going to remove some funding away from Medicaid, not Medicare so much. It was mostly Medicaid. When they pulled their guidance, they took a 41% hit basically in one day. So UNH was over a little bit more time than that. They pulled their guidance just a week or two after UNH had pulled their guidance. So anyway, they've continued downward. They've had a few run-ups, but this does not look like it's getting ready to break out, but it's something that I'm watching as well. UNH just looks a little better here.
Yeah. And I'd be curious if it's something we can get into. I've seen like companies, and I looked at the big picture for Netflix and played it right. Like, the market's crazy. Why is it discounting Netflix the way it did? If you can go back in history, look at Netflix and go back to, I think it was 2022 or 2023, when the market just sold that stock off like it was just a worthless company. And then the stock, just look at that beautiful recovery. Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
And what were you seeing when it bottomed out and then just started this reward cycle for investors? See how back then everything just looked terrible for Netflix. I think the statistics they were reporting showed that, hey, maybe subscriber growth was slowing. I know that their production costs were really expensive. It costs a lot of money to film these big shows that they put on. And those were real factors in how it affected their valuation. But the market, I felt, just got carried away. It's like, guys, they have a tremendous subscriber list. They could adjust the business, but to build a subscriber list like that, Netflix had been working on that for 20 years. You can't, that network power cannot be replaced. It's a powerful company. So I bought the stock and I did really well with it.
Let me go to a different, this is a more dynamic environment. So I can go back to,
what did we see back then that kind of said, hey, the market decided enough's enough. It's starting to buy this stock.
okay. So once the 50 days started falling, I mean, it just kept going. And when it turned over, if I'd have been watching it on this day, that's something that I would have been curious about. And then if we move across, it pretty much stayed above that 50-day for most of the time. It pulled down below it a couple times. Pulled down for, looks like 6 weeks or so below the 50 line. And then it had been above it pretty much. It pretty much held that 50-day moving average. We're over here on its way down. I mean, it was consistently below the 50-day moving average, except for a couple of days. So the market seemed to shift its views here. And once that 50-day turned over, it started riding above the 50 days. So that would have been good. some good news.
Yeah, this was so Meta. I did this with Meta. I did this with Netflix, and hopefully I can put UNH on that list of, hey, market was irrational as it sold off UnitedHealthcare. It just disregarded how much money they make. I think people, when you when you get the top line revenue, you see how big it is, and you see how much cash ends up going into the balance sheet. Cash is cash. Okay, cash is cash. You can't. That's the number one metric that, like Charlie Munger, the great late Charlie Munger, he looked at cash. That's what you want to look at. And Netflix was a different animal, not quite the cash producer that UNH is, but there was just so much value there. It was very irrational for the market to have sold it off so bad, and the recovery speaks for itself.
Yeah. So let's go back to UNH and maybe look back. Yeah. Really consolidated for a couple years here, didn't it?
Yeah, I think the whole healthcare space, healthcare hasn't had a good year since probably 2022.
Yeah.
And ever since then, we've been in, continuous cycles of, this is a problem with CVS. This is the problem with so-and-so. This is the problem with so-and-so. You had a previous administration. You think this administration's tough on healthcare. I thought the previous administration was even worse. But, I'm not here to talk about politics. I'm here to talk about stocks and how we can make money on stocks. And all right, so UnitedHealthcare is a watch stock. It is one that I've zeroed in on, and we'll see. We'll see. It's supposed to open higher by 1.63%. Each day that it keeps going higher, I think the fundamentals will continue to build, potentially better fundamentals that more investors are waking up to and saying, hey, maybe a few bucks into UnitedHealthcare might be a good idea.
Yep, that's kind of what I'm thinking as well. So taking that same approach that we looked at with Netflix, you can see it's below its 50-day and has been since April of this year.
Yep.
So, but you can see that the rate of change on this 50-day is slowing down. So there's
perfect.
A good chance that we might see a rollover and it starts increasing. And
keep in mind, big picture, if like right now, right, communication services and technology stocks, they're absorbing so much capital and stock prices are just flying up. Wonderful.
Yeah, if we look at this PPO as well, we can see that it's trading in negative territory. So that means the sentiment is bullish. When the longer or shorter term average, which is the black line, crosses through the red line, you can see that it did that yesterday.
Boom.
That means people are less bullish or less bearish.
So
but they're not bullish yet. That has
the way
to
I
be
would
above
put it
this
is,
zero line.
The data may be telling us that sentiment may be changing. Now,
Yes.
give it a few more days, maybe a few more weeks, and we could then look at it and say, hey, look, sentiment did change because now the data tells us that.
Yeah.
What I wanted to share is big picture. Can UnitedHealthcare get on a long-term upward trend? For me, the answer is yes, because there's so much money in technology, semiconductor. There's so much money in communication services, Meta, Google Alphabet, Netflix, even Disney's been doing well. That if you have any type of pullback or, hey, there's some new stories where, maybe the data center isn't going to take so much capital next year and you have a sell-off in NVIDIA, Broadcom. Well, that capital is going to want to find a home, and healthcare is classified as a safe sector. It's like, hey, that's not a bad place to be. So that type of, I'm expecting we're going to have a pullback at some point. It's just, things are great, but they're not going to be great forever. So I think that if the technicals show that, hey, this thing's super undervalued, it's going to start going places. I think there could be a longer term reason why UnitedHealthcare would receive more capital. All right. So really covered that one well. Thank you. That was education for me.
Yeah.